Hi, everybody. It's Susan again, and I'm back this time to talk about Mars conjunct Pluto, which is in pretty much in orb already. If you're watching this now, in anywhere from the 11th of February through till about the 19th of February. It's a pretty big deal, but it's exact on the 13th of February. Pardon me, on the 14th of February even, and that's at 6:30 a.m. Universal Time. It might be a wee bit earlier than that. I didn't track it by the exact minute, but okay, let's say 6:30 just to round it off. And that just pushes it into the 13th for the east coast of North and South America, and then into the 13th if you're on Pacific time for sure. We're sticking to 14th because it's far more dramatic to say that Mars and Pluto come together on Valentine's Day, for what it's worth. Good luck to you all out there. I'm wearing my bright red top just to celebrate the St. Valentine's Day massacre. I'm just kidding. So I know most people don't even celebrate it. It's so tacky and so overly commercialized. But okay, if you do, you're up for a really intense time. It can be wonderful as well. So don't buy into all the hype and drama around the Mars Pluto, because on an individual level it can absolutely be wonderful. And that just brings a lot of depth and a lot of intensity. Mars is around action, what it is that you want to do, how you want to do it, what you might feel is a goal at this time. And Pluto is about getting to the root of something. It's about getting deeper into an understanding of your motivations, if you like, in terms of the actions you want to take. And that, of course, will be with regards to the Aquarius house that is in your chart. I will go sign by sign this time, just to be a little more clear for each of you, for what it's worth. And also, just as a reminder, I am working with the tropical zodiac, and I work with the whole sign system, which I highly encourage. I just had a client yesterday. We spoke about that. She's also in the middle of transitioning from a Placidus to a whole sign system. I did that over the course of a few months. And that was in late 2014. And by 2015, I was working with that professionally after a few years of working with Placidus. I do find it gives a lot more clarity. It saves a lot of complex interpretations, and there's nothing wrong at all with Placidus. I did a whole video on these different house systems, which you can find on my channel. But just to say, a lot of times people come up with comments saying, this is going to happen in my eighth house, or this is going to go on for 40 years. Pluto is going to be 40 years in my first house. It's like, yeah, just work with the whole sign house system, and you'll find that your life makes a lot more sense in terms of the transits. Right, I'll just get down now off my pedestal and back to the chart. And the chart itself has a rising of Aquarius because, of course, it's an early morning rising. So when the sun rises, when the sun is in its sign, the rising sign will also be in the sign of the sun. Of course, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So, of course, now we have a 6:30 a.m. Universal Time chart, and this is when the sun is starting to rise. So it's coming up into Aquarius as well. So here we are starting with Aquarius, and I will start the readings from here. But just to clarify a couple of things around the Pluto Mars, of course, globally far more challenging than individually, as often transits are. Now, it is a conjunction, and conjunctions can be, they can go both ways in terms of whether they end up being difficult or easy, or what you might describe individually as desirable or not. I don't really like the idea of the good and bad polarity, because often when what seems to be a bad thing happens, a lot of good comes out of it. And equally, when a lot of good things happen, we can end up with a lot of headache. So remember, we're talking about a moment in time, things that happen that lead to new things happening constantly. So don't dwell too much on these aspects as being good or bad. And I really want you to think about that in terms of all transits, all natal aspects to your chart, and any transits as well. Think of life as a continuum of present moment events, and how you respond to those events and how you're dealing with your life is far more important than actually what's happening in your life. So here we are, of course, in difficult times. One of the things that really jumps out to me with Pluto in Aquarius in general, but especially when Mars comes by to trigger that, is the notion of witch hunts. And we can extrapolate that into all kinds of different ways of seeing that. Um, the other day, I posted a video and somebody added a helpful correction. I got something wrong, and I really appreciate it when people point out something that I get wrong. But the way that it was done was then finished off with an ad hominem attack, which means a personal attack, which was really unnecessary and quite harsh. So I used the quote, or this kind of um, sort of mythological quote of Marie Antoinette in the French Revolution, "Let them eat cake, qu'il mange de la brioche." And apparently it is not from her, it is actually from a few years before, and she was pegged with that as a kind of a political smear. So I want to make sure that you understand that you all take notes and make sure that you don't continue to spread this misinformation, which I was accused of doing. So we're no longer in the realm of being able to make a mistake. So we really do need to be careful with Pluto in Aquarius that we don't go down this witch hunt path, because it's already there, it's building, and it's becoming very divisive over the last 3 or 4 years in particular. And that, I want to emphasize, is by design. It's not random that we are at each other's throats for the least little thing to make a factually inaccurate statement. It's no longer, we can't see this as something that's just a random act. There's not only just the algorithms that promote highly sort of hysterical and angry emotive reactions to things, because all through social media that's the case, including these ridiculous clickbait titles that you get for even the most anodyne transits or things happening in astrology. Sometimes I just can't even believe what people put on the titles for their videos, because it's just like, really, the moon this is shocking. Is it really shocking? No, it's just that works with the algorithm. And so understand that not only are we being played by AI, but there are humans also playing us with propaganda. So of course, Aquarius we want to think of as the social arena, the agora, and when Pluto goes in there, it has an impact. It will transform that, and we can transform that for the good, and we can transform that into a complete cesspool. And it can be like uh, mixed martial arts every day, all day. And so um, reflect on how you might make assumptions. Remember, the other day I spoke about the assumptions that people jump to conclusion with this heavy, more intense focus on Aquarius. Of course, that's going to be more true for people who have that natally, but jumping to conclusions is not giving the benefit of the doubt. Now, there's, of course, many spiritual ways of looking at this. "Let he who hath no sin cast the first stone" is one of them that comes from the Bible. Now somebody's going to correct that one, surely. Maybe that's the Old Testament version, I don't know. Find a new version and put it in the comments. But just to say, when we are accusing other people, and I did mention this in the video that in fact was the subject of the comment that I got, we're reflecting something of ourselves as we accuse others. So reflect first on yourself, and especially with Pluto conjunct Mars, reflect on, where am I angry? Where do I need to root out my anger? Where do I need to root out my inability to take action, my sense of feeling impotent? That's a very important source of rage for many people, particularly people who feel marginalized or belittled, who feel no sense of agency, no sense of being able to take action in their life. They feel powerless, and therefore that's enraging. And so this Mars Pluto can have us really projecting onto others our own sense of anger and rage at something that's entirely unrelated. So what Pluto wants us to do is not lash out to other people, certainly not. Mars doesn't even want that, to be honest, especially not in Aquarius. it's more about understanding what are you feeling and how do you understand that? Now, when Mars is in Aquarius, there's a capacity to step back and gain perspective. There's a capacity to take action based on a common goal, based on something that is collective. Like, for example, trade union movements are very Aquarian. Mars in Aquarius is like the picket line or taking action based on collective needs, or like NGOs working to support a cause or to defend a cause. And so these are things that we can reflect in terms of Mars in Aquarius on what can I do to activate my sense of agency so that I'm not just sitting here boiling about the, you name it, political situation, medical situation, the disappearing democracy around the world, the increasing, sense of censorship and not being, and here's the witch hunt part. It's not just censorship coming from the top down, but it's censorship that is both self-censoring. I find myself doing that on this channel, and I've stopped posting to Facebook because of their utterly absurd ways of holding my content back, including stupid things like a couple of months ago, I posted an astrological video that I did just to post it to my Facebook page. And then it got taken down saying that I just did that to get likes. And it's like, for Christ's sake, what next? I mean, honestly. So anyway, you won't be seeing much of me on Facebook. So as I've already mentioned, please don't look for me there. I just keep it because I have friends and family all over the world, and there we are. But just to say that we're censoring ourselves. We're either just because we're so fed up with the hassle of it all, or because we're afraid of being attacked, as we are regularly being attacked for so many things. Again, because the benefit of the doubt seems to have just dissolved into thin air. And where we used to be, there used to be a capacity to think, oh, perhaps that person just doesn't know, requires some information, requires some context, which would be a good point of departure rather than going for the jugular off the bat. So anyway, so the point being, Mars Pluto in Aquarius can really trigger patterns of this mob mentality, and that can lead to mob violence, even if it's online. The notion of cancel culture is comes to mind. And so just reflect on those things. They are coming from within. It's a response, a psychological response that you're having to things going on in your life, and know that that's also what's happening from the people that are making comments or doing things around you. Now, obviously, if you're in real life and you're in a place where you're being harmed, you have to defend yourself. You have to take precautions, but don't put yourself in situations where you might be in a place where people can harm you, be violent with you, because this can be where people are really not connected to themselves, where they don't take any time to reflect. Mars and Pluto will be very volatile, and of course, collectively, very, very much so. So lots of countries have early Aquarius energy, and that we can see things happening in different places. We've got, China has, I think it's a 3-degree Aquarius. Did I say Aries? I meant Aquarius if I said Aries. The 3-degree Aquarius moon, I think it's China's moon. And I'm not suggesting that there's something violent going to happen there, but China can be involved in some kind of political dispute, for example, especially as it's part of the representation of the population, where we see the moon in a country's chart, the public, if you like. So all that to say, don't let yourself get carried away by other people's anger. When you feel triggered by anger, look at what's going on in you, because often the anger that is triggering from the outside is actually what we have not resolved, what we have not looked at from the inside. And Mars and Pluto together are an invitation. I think if we use this energy consciously, an invitation to understand what is at the root of my discontent or my sense of frustration, And on the more constructive level, where do I need to take action that I'm not yet taking action? And what do I know I need to deal with that I haven't been dealing with? So Mars is courage as well. And when Mars comes together with Pluto, it brings a lot of courage, a capacity to feel like now's the time, now I can do this thing. So that brings you an opportunity to use this energy in a way that you can plan for, that you can be constructive about, and get on with it. And so if you feel frustration, if you feel a lot of pent up energy, do something physical. You know, if you have a partner, just enjoy your partner, and do-si-do with your partner on Valentine's Day, and otherwise get into the gym or just dance. Dancing is fantastic. Mars Pluto, fantastic way of expressing yourself deeply through movement, and having a sense of putting energy in motion so that you're creating a new feeling, a new sensitivity around whatever's going on. Now, this Mars Aquarian energy lasts all the way until the 22nd of March. So it's from the 12th. We're already feeling this now. So even if you have a late Capricorn placement, you're already feeling that too. Also, Venus is there. We can see that in the chart as well. Venus is coming up on the 17th. I'm going to make a separate video about Venus conjunct Pluto because it just gets to be so many things. So this week, particularly a really busy week for interesting conjunctions. And so from the 12th to the 12th of February till the 22nd of March, we can expect quite a lot of energy of this Martian Mars-like energy in the public sphere, in organizations, networks, social gatherings of all kinds, and also potentially on the internet. So, you know, the keyboard warriors will have a field day for about 3 weeks. Or no more, five, even 6 weeks. There you go. Fun and games for the keyboard warriors this Mars in Aquarius season with Pluto. And so I just want to emphasize as well, and this will be the same when Venus comes along to Pluto, and it was already the same when Mercury was on Pluto last week, that that 0 degrees of Aquarius is that was a really key point in at the winter solstice of the 21st of December 2020, which was, as you remember, if you can recall, that was a monumental year. That would have been the, I guess, second wave-ish of the pandemic, dare I say, and that is being recalled now. So one thing that I would absolutely expect to see, and I see coming up fast and furious right now, are more and more open challenges to the story, the reaction, the so-called solution to the situation that we were in 2020. And there is now a lot of anger, and there was for many, many years already, but there is now an anger that is taking action, legal action, based on certain things that were forced upon us, and in ways that have broken society as well as our individual health as well. So a very interesting time that is also going to affect international institutions. Of course, as Pluto goes through Aquarius, all of those post-war institutions, the UN, the WHO, which is a UN institution, the Court of Justice, and so on, they're all going to break apart. And I'll do a separate video on that because I find this kind of thing compelling right now, as Pluto is now moving, frankly, into the sign to last much longer than it did last year. So I think I've said what I wanted to say in general. There's always more to say, but what I also want to add into this, especially since we're talking about Mars, is that, of course, Mars is ruling the North Node, and the North Node at the same time, all of this week, is conjunct Chiron. Now, it has been for quite some time, if you give it a bigger orb of 2 or more degrees, 2, 3 degrees. So we are already in this, but it's exact this week on the 19th, 18th, 19th, 20th is when we will feel that exactly, but we're certainly already feeling the North Node and Chiron in Aries. So this is an opportunity for us to reflect on where we may feel disappointment in ourselves, where we may want to address areas, and this could be the Mars-Pluto factor coming in, where we need to take action, where we need to step up with courage. Chiron in Aries is about perhaps feelings of insecurity or lack of self-worth, inadequacy that might come from childhood. Now, this again will be stronger if that's a natal position for you. But nonetheless, we're all experiencing this, and it's worth reflecting also on where are we our own worst enemy. If we come back to the notion of Mars on Pluto and jumping to conclusions and ad hominem attacks and even physical attacks of people that we might be angry with, but projecting anger from some other source. And so this is a great week to really dig into notions of how do I take action? Am I taking constructive action? How do I deal with anger? How do I deal with my self-esteem and my self-image? Because Aries is also about our vision or image of ourselves in the general sense. If we look at the natural chart, of course, that Aries is the first house, so that's how we show up. It's us in the way that we appear, and so this is a really interesting time. I left the moon in there as well because the moon over the 13th and 14th is conjunct that point. And so whenever the moon and the North Node come together, it's emphasizing, and it can add to emotional tension. Now the moon is in a sextile to the sun. By the end of the week, it will be in the first quarter phase. And so we're going to be looking at the new moon first quarter phase as a reference to the new moon, the first quarter phase as a reference to the new moon that we had whenever that was. It feels like last year now, but I think it was like the 9th of February. Sorry about that. I'm just having a wee moment. We also have, and it doesn't show up here because I just wanted to keep it simple because otherwise I get distracted into all the glyphs, but Venus is actually in a sextile to Neptune. And this is a harmonious aspect. Venus is squaring the moon, which can also bring a certain amount of indulgence, but it's a softer energy. So it can be something that appeases a little bit of the tension that might be there around the Pluto Mars. So all that to say that we're on a course of self-inquiry, as always. If we look at astrology in the highest sense, we're looking at not what's happening to me, but what am I able to do within the context of my life to fully live my life, to love myself, to love my life and the people around me, and to leave this world a slightly better place than I found it. And when we look at astrology as something that is really happening to us, we collapse into the victim mode. And that Chiron then becomes a source of pain and wounding and woe is me. And you see things never work out. It's never good enough, etc., etc. I'm just noticing as well, we have a sextile building from Mercury to that Chiron and North Node. So there's a lot of thinking, communicating that can also bring a lot of benefit at this time. Lots of reflection from the Aries to the Aquarius part of your chart. Right, let's go sign by sign and have a look at this. The Chiron Aries, this Chiron North Node is a rare transit. So we're making the most of this opportunity to inquire around our healing, our own capacity to overcome areas where we may have let ourselves down. Maybe we've been our own worst enemy. And when we look sign by sign, I'll help guide you in terms of understanding how that might affect you. I'm going to simply start with the Aquarius rising because it's there already. And just to make my life easier, I won't move the chart. So Aquarius, sun, moon, and ascendant. This is, of course, very powerfully impacting your first house of self and your sense of self. And so there may be something that you realize you need to take action on with Mars having new goals. Mars will come around every 2 years into your first house. This is not rare, but with Pluto, it's the first time that we're getting a Mars-Pluto conjunction. The next time will be in January 2026. So this is an opportunity for you, especially if you have an early Aquarius planet. So within, say, the first 2-3 degrees of Aquarius, you're going to really be feeling this powerfully. A new opportunity to show up and if either somehow stand up for yourself or take action on your own behalf that is based on something that requires transformation. Now, this is not usually a surprise. Usually it's something that you're well aware of already. And given that Chiron and the North Node are in your third house of communications, of your goals and your sense of what it is that you want to achieve in the short term and in terms of your sort of ambition and willpower, that Mars-Pluto can really help you accomplish a lot of things. That Mars also rules your third house, of which represents siblings as well. So if you do have any issues going on with siblings, there would be an opportunity for you to take action on that, deal with that. The Mercury, which is sextiling the North Node and Chiron in your third, can help you find the words and feel that you're ready to engage and communicate around something like that. The third house can also represent writing, teaching, Chiron being a great teacher. Historically, in the mythology, Chiron is also a teacher, as well as a healer. So there's a opportunity for you to use your words or use your way of expressing yourself in a healing capacity or in a capacity that is going to overcome a feeling of inadequacy or a sense of block. Now, what this can do, for example, if you're a shy Aquarius, maybe this is the time where you can realize that you can get over that shyness and start a new path with that North Node in the third house, and decide that now you're going to show up differently, speak differently. You know, with Pluto, Mars together, it gives great insight in terms of other people's motives and how people respond to you. And so you can use that as a reference to yourself and say, okay, now I'm starting to see the impact that I have on other people, and why that might be showing up in a particular way in my life. So this is something that you can communicate about, and at the very least, you can journal about it and understand yourself a little better through that. The third house is your neighbors, neighborhood, cousins, extended family as well. It's the marketplace as well. It's if you're, for example, in business, there can be something that you're dealing with in terms of overcoming any loss or difficulties that may have occurred around business. And now with Mars and Pluto in the first house, you have an opportunity to feel like you can get yourself through this, whatever it is. You've got this feeling of, I'm ready to deal with whatever it is. I'm ready to confront whatever it is that I need to move through this. If it's a relationship issue, which it may be, because of course Mars and Pluto are on your side of the relationship axis. So you might be feeling like, you know what, I'm so done with you and it's really time to move on. And now you're clear, you have a sense of clarity around that. And maybe the Chiron Aries North Node is an opportunity for you to realize where you've been holding yourself back through a lack of self-esteem or a sense of not being good enough to ask for what it is that you need. And now with Mars Pluto, you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm so ready to ask for what I need, or demand it, or just walk out the door. Aquarius has this incredible capacity to just turn and walk away when the time is right. When you're done, you're done. There you go. So Aquarius, make the most of this. It's actually extremely positive from an individual perspective, can get a lot of stuff done. So all the best with that. Right, whoopsie, we've moved so that we skipped our Pisces friends here. Right, so Pisces is now rising. Ignore the time. I'm just moving through the chart. So ignore the time. It's not about, there's no accuracy here. I'm just taking the ascendants as they come. So now we're working with Pisces, sun, moon, or rising sign. And this puts the Pluto transit with Mars together in your 12th house. Now, the 12th house is a place where everything is hidden in a number of different ways. It's a house of faraway places, foreign lands, can be faraway clients as well, especially as it's Aquarius. So that's still got this flavor of marketplace or money. You would want to be careful of any losses because the 12th house can also be a house of loss, but it's a loss in terms of a worldly loss, but the spiritual gain is all the better, all the more so. And with this much energy, you're very soon, in a couple of days, you're going to have Venus there too. Massive stellium in the 12th house is a brilliant opportunity for you to reflect on what it is that you want to understand about yourself spiritually, and at the very least, from a psychological place, from the unconscious. Where we might be, again, this sense of the Chiron North Node in the second house can bring about a sense of lacking self-worth, lacking personal courage, for example, where there might be a tendency to undersell yourself, sell yourself short, and not be able to really feel your own value. And therefore, you hold yourself back. That's the 12th house, the house of self-undoing, is one way that that's described. It is also the house of bed pleasures. So Pluto Mars can also be pretty exciting, but you want to be careful that South Node is in the 8th house of secrets. And the Chiron on the North Node can also reveal certain things. So yeah, just anyway, do what is right by your judgment. The 12th house also has this context of ancestors. I really like to explore ancestral work when I work with individuals. Sometimes it's not really strong in a chart, but other times it's very strong. And at this particular moment, for this very full 12th house, this is a great opportunity to call in some connections with ancestors, ancestral wisdom. I meant to say in the introduction, but whoever will hear this, is just to say that we are the product of thousands of years of our ancestors overcoming adversity, overcoming challenge and difficulty. And we are, it's in our DNA, this survival tendency, this capacity to be resilient, to overcome. That's that Pisces quality anyway, but especially when Pluto and Mars are in the 12th house, we get this incredible resilience and strength that comes from a spiritual place. And that can also come from an ancestral awareness. So this can be a very fortifying time spiritually, and can have some real benefits in terms of travel abroad, far, far away from where you're born. And ninth house is also like that, and Mars rules your ninth house. And ninth house tends to be travel with a purpose, and the 12th house is simply travel far away. And it can also, of course, be around loss. So we have the South Node in the 8th house of death and transformation, and sharing with other people, sharing resources, sharing things that you can get from the loss of someone else, for example, or from the sacrifice of somebody else, like your spouse's income, for example. So that 12th house can also represent some sort of focus on mourning or dealing with loss, and that can have been a recent one, or it can be from long, long ago, but it's coming into your awareness now. The Chiron North Node in the second house is really fantastic if you are working in a way that is involving teaching or healing. It is going to bring you quite a lot of understanding and awareness, and a new sense of how to work with this energy of what previously may have held you back. But whatever confidence you've gained through self-awareness is going to serve you in terms of this next cycle. So Chiron and the North Node coming together now are creating a new cycle, which will repeat in 18, 19 years. So the Chiron North Node, no, it won't. No, sorry, never mind. It's not. The North Node will be coming back there, but Chiron won't be anywhere near there. So this is it. Ignore what I just said. This is it. Chiron North Node in your second house. So it's about overcoming any lack of worthiness. It's about overcoming issues that might prevent you from dealing with your money in a sensible way. And again, I want to emphasize the 12th house can be about financial loss or financial um, sacrifice of some kind, including shenanigans where somebody might be dishonest and taking money from you. So becoming aware of that, so that that energy of the Mars Pluto would give you courage, for example, to deal with that. We want to be on the right side of that Mars Pluto rather than being the one who might be manipulated. So this is the time to step up and use that courage and overcome any sense of worry around what people think of you. Right. So Pisces, make the most of this. It's a very rich time for you spiritually, right up to your birthday, which is soon enough. What's happening in just a few days after this transit. So so a really good way of building up the mojo behind the scenes before your birthday. So what's coming next? We have, sorry, we're going to skip it back again. We have Aries. There we are, Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. This, of course, has been a part of your story with the North Node and Chiron in your first house, basically since the first time that Chiron moved into your first house in April, May of 2018. It moved in fully in 2019, but it was already in early May 2019. 18 even. And so you've had a long time to adjust to this, but now as the North Node is there, there's something really new that you've understood. This whole process of the North Node going through your first house started in in July even of 2023. And now with Pluto and Mars up in your 11th house, with all this energy up in the 11th house, there's perhaps something to do with your future vision or your goals for your life, like a kind of a dream for your life that you're transforming, that you have a sense needs to change. It might be a sense of I've got new goals now, a new sense of what I'm here for. And particularly so if you are an Aries rising, but anyway, Sun and Moon as well. Mars, of course, is your ruler. And so it matters that Mars is in this very strong conjunction, rare conjunction with Pluto for the first time in our lifetimes in the 11th house for you. And that can also be about recognizing where you might need to separate from friends groups or political groups or networks, because Mars is about, it's got an aspect of separating as well. It's got an action-oriented quality, taking action, doing something about it, having goals, being driven by a purpose. But it also has this quality of I'm done, I'm moving on. And Pluto, of course, going into the 11th house is all about transforming your relationship to society or to the networks that you hang out with, including social friends, like not the super intimate ones, but your friends groups, or again, could be a religious or spiritual or political group that you spend time with. So this will certainly transform throughout the time that Pluto is in the 11th house, but Mars is triggering something quite important here because it's your ascendant ruler. It's if you're especially Aries ascendant, it's going to be very obvious to you what that is. You probably already have an inkling, and otherwise you will be noticing it. And sometime this week, and perhaps exactly on the 14th, but these things can be seed points as well. So you're beginning something very new in terms of your 11th house. Now, it can also be related to money. I'll talk about Venus when she moves in the 11th house in a separate video, but this can be about money that you earn from the work that you do. And the 11th house is gains. It's the house of gains. Now, that can have you working hard, feeling a deep motivation around that, and being really driven in terms of how to increase your gains, increase accolades, including how people recognize you for the work that you do. And of course, with Chiron on the North Node, this can also come from a healed relationship to yourself, or a deeper understanding of how you might show up in the lives of other people because it's on your ascendant, if that is indeed your first house, or it's reflecting your sun or moon. And so there's something that you become aware of that requires some courage or overcoming of a pattern that might be your sort of self-sabotaging pattern. And so it can lead you to a whole new place with the Chiron North Node. It can be something quite new that's coming in. It can also be something that is happening within your circle that teaches you something about yourself. So you're learning through sort of the school of hard knocks that, oh, that's not great. These are the consequences of things that I've said or done. And that's not bad either, because it's all learning. It's all part of the process of growth and development. So Mars also rules your 8th house, and so there can be something connected to hidden aspects of your personality or family secrets or intimacy, marriage, shared resources with others that can also be affected here. But very obviously, you will be experiencing this somehow in the more social aspect of your life or in the future-oriented area of your life. So it's time to plan forward with courage and have a sense that if the time is right to separate yourself from others or to take action in a new way, in a new forum, then do that with a sense of self-awareness. So you don't provoke the ire of the people around you. All right, Aries, good luck with all of that, and I will see you in the next video. Alrighty, so Taurus now. You're having this in your house of career, social contributions, how you show up in the world. Sometimes people say to me, I'm retired, I don't have a job. I always say this is how you show up in the world. So it doesn't have to be about career. There's so much more in the 10th house. It can be your marital status as well. This can be transforming all of that. And there, with Mars in the 10th, there is usually a strong signature of ambition. And maybe with Mars and Pluto together, there is now a really strong desire for a new career goal, a new ambition around how you want to participate in society, how you are dealing with your marital status one way or another. I would have to see your natal chart to see how that's panning out for you. Mars rules your house of relationships. So this will, one way or another, whether it's a business partnership or a marriage, will certainly have an impact on that. And this can be also just in general, in terms of your own ambition, and you're not necessarily in conflict with anyone, but you're really feeling now this drive and an ambition. Chiron has been in your 12th house along with the North Node for quite some time, and Chiron on the North Node now this week, exact on the 19th, but pretty much in effect all week, is really showing you where you may have been your own worst enemy. You may have been lacking some kind of ambition. You may not have taken action, and it can happen, especially with the fixed angles, the angles of the chart being the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th. And those are all fixed signs for a Taurus rising and for any fixed sign rising. And so the 10th house can be where you may not have really made a choice or really stepped up. And now with Mars on Pluto, it's really feeling like time to do that. And you're feeling like the ambition, the courage, the drive, and the purpose to bring your attention outward into the world. It may be a new project in terms of social project as well. It doesn't have to be things that you earn money for, of course. It can be a vocation, and that you're just recognizing this is the thing that I really want to do, especially as the South Node is in your house of everyday work and your schedule, and that's changing as well. So that has been changing since July of 2023. So Taurus, do take action in whatever way you take action. It can have long-lasting results. Your ruler will be moving in shortly to the 10th house on the 17th. I will make a separate video about that, and that will have a slightly more nuanced impact for you. But this is kind of paving the way So listen to those impulses for change. Listen to what it is that you want to change in terms of either your career or vocational goals, or the way that you participate in the world outside your home, within the social status that you have, married, not married, parent, not parent, all those different ways that we look at each other socially. Whatever you realize needs to change, this is the moment to change it. And this is a seed moment. It doesn't have to be done on the day, but it's certainly time for the change. So good luck with all of that, Taurus, and I'll see you in the next video. Gemini, this is happening in your 9th house. So whether sun, moon, or rising, but especially if it's your rising sign, this will be felt more powerfully. For Gemini rising, this is in the house of your vision in terms of your sense of purpose for life. And it's all the more so because Chiron and the North Node are in your house of the future and what you kind of how you dream about your future. This is the social house as well, so it can have something to do with your beliefs and acting upon your beliefs. And then because Mars rules your 11th house, pulling that into how you see your future, how it is that you're taking action in either a social group or some kind of network around your work, because Mars also rules your 6th house of everyday work, your job, if you like. It can be about health as well, because Mars rules your 6th, but it's also ruling the North Node and Chiron in the 11th, and Chiron, of course, is also something to do with health. But this can be much more related to your sense of your how you engage in life in general, your sense of purpose in the higher sense. Your ruler Mercury is up there in a sextile to that North Node and Chiron conjunction. And that sextile is quite supportive. So you're really needing to reflect on this. It may be something that you need to learn, or a way of acting upon a new philosophy or a new way of conceiving of life. This will be for sure important for you over the next couple of decades, because Pluto is there and it will change your way of seeing what life is for you. What is life in the biggest question sense of the question, and what is my life about is the big question. And then with Mars there, maybe you're feeling now that there's this deep motivation to do something about it. Mercury having just been last week, having just been with Pluto, your ruler again, will have already shown you some kind of depth of insight around that. So yeah, so this can be a very interesting time. You can have, now, if you're in studies or you want to get into studies, this can also motivate you and give you some drive. If you have issues with your father, so 9th house I also see as father, or teacher of some kind, or some kind of guide, counselor, and so on. There can be some issues there that require resolution, or there's something going on in their life that you need to deal with, or that's affecting you in some way. And the 11th house is also the house of elder siblings. So with North Node Chiron, there, perhaps that's got some tie-in to what's going on in your family, especially as your ruler Mercury also rules your 4th house of family. So I would have to see your natal chart to know more about that, but that's also entirely possible. Whatever it is, it's going to involve you taking action in a new way that is quite profound and based on something you realize just needs to change. And whether the change is being kind of forced by circumstances coming from the outside, or is a drive coming from inside, which probably is true given that Pluto has just spent 15 years in your 8th house, kind of cleaning the cobwebs out of the recesses of your mind and the attic of the family skeletons in the closet. You probably now know what it is that you want to do. So dream big. This is a lovely time to really open yourself up to big visions for your life. Make the most of that, Gemini. I'll see you in the next video. Cancer, this is happening in your 8th house. So Mars and Pluto in the 8th house can bring up issues around shared resources. If you're married, if you have a partner, you don't have to be actually married, but you can have, it could be a business partner or a life partner that you share something with, and there may be some need for that to change. This can also be something to do with money that is owed or money that you're borrowing, and that you're now taking action on. This can be something to do with sexual intimacy, emotional intimacy. Mars there often can create some turbulence if it's not about sexual intimacy. If it is, then make the most of that. But if it's on the contrary about emotional intimacy or psychological intimacy, this can cause some kind of grittiness and edginess, psychologically or emotionally. That is being changed anyway, because the South Node is moving through your fourth house, which is not just your home and household and property and so on, but it's also a psychological house. And so something is changing. The way that you relate to what makes you feel secure is changing. And part of that is coming from your work and your career and your social status. And Chiron on the North Node in your 10th house, ruled by that Mars in the 8th house, is an opportunity for you to realize, you know what, I can do this thing. I don't have to hold myself back, especially for those working in the healing arts, especially if you're working with people like this, for example, some kind of occult or mystical practice or psychological practice with people, some kind of counseling practice. This will be fantastic. It can bring great benefit. There can be some things with clients, for example, like Venus is in the 7th house of partnerships and clients, and then Mercury, Mars, well, the Sun too, Mercury, Mars, and Pluto are in your 8th house of what you get from clients. That can be income. So there can be something about money that you earn from that. Mars rules your 5th house of entrepreneurship, creativity, love affairs as well. But Mercury also rules your 3rd house of business and exchanges as well. So that can be part of that. I don't want to go too deep into this because it may not apply to too many of you, but just to say that this can also have some kind of impact in terms of your earnings or the way that you work, the way that you deal with clients, the way that you need to either structure or take action based on how you receive things from clients, how you deal with client relationships, but also anything that is shared with other people, shared resources from other people that may need restructuring anyway. But this North Node Chiron in the 10th house is an opportunity for you to see yourself in a different light. That can also show you, for example, how you might be sabotaging your participation out in the world. Now, it doesn't have to be about a career. It can be about a vocation, or it can just be about your social status or the way that you engage with the world, your ambition. Perhaps, for example, your ambitions have just been too low. Maybe you realize now you could have done more. Chiron can show us where we're disappointed in ourselves, but don't dwell on that. Don't let yourself fall into that trap. So you want to have a feeling of what would I like now, and what have I learned from the past. Don't dwell on the past. This is the only time that we can take action is now. So this Chiron North Node is an opportunity for you to say, well, I could go for that. I could really try that. And the courage coming from Mars and Pluto in the 8th house of transformation and the deeper drive is encouraging you to overcome fear. 8th house is where we have fears as well, and also family secrets and patterns in the family. So this can be something that you're also overcoming. Now, again, this would require a look at your natal chart, but just to say that can be valuable anyway for all cancers, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Overcome fears, look at fears, understand what might be holding you back or what has been. And now with the North Node on Chiron, start to move in that direction that brings you a feeling of overcoming that. So good luck, Cancer. I'll see you in the next video. Leo, this is happening in your relationship house. So duck, hang back a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of tricky because I would need to see your natal chart to see what's actually going on, but it can be that relationships are being transformed in a radical way for you. And that transformation can perhaps come through a need to burn bridges and move on, or to recognize where you need to make some changes, take action. Now, this can be coming through your partner. The energy that is about change and what are we going to do about this might be coming from your partner. And again, much like Taurus, as I mentioned in the Taurus section, you're a fixed sign rising, and that means that all of the angles are fixed. So you've got the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses in fixed signs, which means that you tend to be a bit slow, holding on a bit too long before making change. And that can be very welcome then, while Mars is with Pluto, to really push through and make some big changes and recognize that it's time now. It's a good time to make some change. And this can also be about recognizing where you need to adapt relationship patterns. And for sure, it's going to have, over the course of 20 years, it's going to have a consequence on how, with whom you relate and how you relate to people. It's going to have a lot to do also with games of power struggles, matches of power over, power under. And with Mars on Pluto, there can be something that comes to a head that you need to deal with in relationship, especially as your ruler, the sun, is in the 7th house right now. So that's obviously a key area for you all through February. Venus, the planet of relationships, will be moving in there on the 17th. And so I'll come with another video about that later in the week. But this is an opportunity for you to clear things out in terms of relationships, clear the air, clear the attic, clear the basement, clear the guest room, whatever it is, and make some space for something new to come in. It's not, speaking as a Cancer rising, I had 15 years of Pluto going through my 7th house. There can be some surprises in the sense that you think that you've understood something about who you are and how you are in relationship, and still something can come back at you and you realize, oh, wow, I almost fell into that trap again, or I almost got once again manipulated. Or, I mean, obviously Leo is a little different energy. It's not going to be the same kind of thing, but just being aware of that. And this can be where you might feel initially that there's some kind of provocation, but it's teaching you a lot. Now, with Chiron and the North Node in the 9th house, this is about where you feel your sense of purpose is and what it is that you want to do. The North Node can represent the father not the North Node, the 9th house rather, can represent the father as well, or parents in general, or teachers, counselors, guides, and so on, priests, lawyers. So this can have something to do with that kind of relationship as well, or a sense of your relationship needing to change, or different relationships needing to change, so that you can get to this place of the North Node in the 9th house, which is about having a new sense of purpose, or having a perhaps more vast sense of what your life is all about. And Chiron meeting at that point of the North Node can really heal long-term patterns that may have even come from childhood, of a sense of holding yourself back. Like, I don't dare have that dream. I don't dare do that thing. How could I possibly? This is where this energy can really make a big difference for you, have a very strong impact, and allow you to grow into what it is that you feel your purpose is. Often with Leo, the sort of astrological lore is that Leo is all about confidence and going for it and doing the thing. And actually, it's something that Leo is here to learn. And so if you're one of those Leos that is a little bit holding back and not quite sure, and not really fully living your creative self-expression, this Chiron North Node in the 9th house can help you with that. Having a sense of clarity around your purpose and with whom you want to take that journey is the most important thing, and the rest is the detail that gets figured out. So how you do that is easier to figure out than what it is that you want to do. And this, I think, is an opportunity for you to realize, I do want that thing. I do want to do that thing. So make the most of that, Leo. This is a really lovely opportunity for you to expand into something that you may have doubted that you could do before. Right. And here we have Virgo on the ascendant. That could be for Virgo sun, moon, and rising sign. And you have this happening in your house of health, your everyday life, your routines around work, your what you could describe as a job, not necessarily a vocation or a career, but just your everyday work, and also colleagues. And so there's something that's big and changing here for you over the next 2 decades. It's a big deal. Mars is triggering this in terms of taking action on something. So maybe there's a realization that this job either is not going to last and I'm going to be fired, or there's going to be no job by the end of this contract or whatever. And now I need to do something about that. Or I don't like the way that I feel and I need to upgrade my health, or I need to change my routine, my schedule, my response, or my relationship to health, whether it be mental or physical, and to bring about a new result. So Mars on Pluto there can really bring courage and drive and this kind of sense of, I'm so done with this. I'm so done with this. We're going to move in a different direction now. Mars, of course, being about goals. Your ruler, Mercury, is there in the sixth house. So you're already doing quite a lot of thinking about that. And Mercury is in a sextile to the North Node and Chiron in the eighth house. And that can be where you're understanding certain aspects of yourself from the place of either family patterns, family secrets, issues of intimacy, psychological patterns, fears. The North Node in the eighth can bring new opportunities through other people, money that can come from other people, new resources coming from other people. So support or things that you get from other people doesn't have to be actually like cash in hand, but it's like moral support as well. And with Chiron on the North Node, there may have been a sense, well, Chiron, at least in general, there over many years already, for like 6 years, you may have already had a sense, well, at least 5 years, you may have already had a sense that at times at least that you felt a little abandoned by your friends, or that you weren't being supported. Now with Chiron on the North Node, this can be much more clear, where you have a sense of, I know what I need now, I know how to overcome this thing. That can be a sense of feeling, not strong enough, or not able to deal with it. But Mars in the sixth house, Pluto in the sixth house, gives you the guts and determination to deal with adversity. Sixth house is the house of obstacles and adversity and challenges, and with Pluto and Mars there, it gives you that courage. And so that is the house where you might come up, you might be confronted with difficult things, but you're given the tools to deal with them. And it's designed always, Pluto is always there to help us to transform and overcome. And as I mentioned in a previous segment here, we're here as a product of our ancestors' capacity to overcome adversity. We didn't just sort of appear here on a sort of the icing on a cake. We have the DNA in us of all of the struggles, all of the adversity, all of the courage of our ancestors who've gone through famine and war and natural catastrophes and personal catastrophes and loss and all those things. And we've overcome, and we're here. We're a testimony to their courage. And so this is a great way of looking at that Mars Pluto in the sixth house, where you have 20 years there to build this resilience. And I promise you that you will grow through that. Having gone through that myself, this is an opportunity for you to really grow in deep inner resilience, and that will be especially manifested through healing, through your unconscious process, and through your understanding of yourself, understanding of situations, understanding of values around money, relationships, and so on as well, because the nodal axis is there in the second and eighth house. So to make the most of this, it's a long road with Pluto, 20 years in your sixth house. You're going to, and especially if you are a healer, or if you work with healing, or you work with some kind of medicine or healthcare or day-to-day support, bringing succor and aid to people in general, this is awesome. This will bring you an enormous amount of opportunity as well. So this is often what is the sort of mission or purpose of a Virgo. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. And it will bring you a lot. So a very rich time, but potentially through things that are not necessarily comfortable, but hang in there, Virgo. And I'll see you in the next video. So Libra, this is happening in your fifth house, which is quite pleasant. At Pluto, Mars in the fifth house can bring you incredible dynamism around your sense of your creativity. This can be about children as well. So there can be some things that come up around either becoming pregnant, trying to become pregnant, having to deal with issues around fertility, infertility, etc. There may be something there. It has to be said that when Mars is in the fifth house, that can provoke some challenges around pregnancy and childbirth. It's not to say that it has to be like that, but for example, it could be that there is a need for surgery around childbirth rather than an easy, smooth childbirth process, for example. That's just one way of looking at that, because Mars is about surgery and surgeons and tools. But Mars with Pluto in the fifth can also bring about immense capacity for creative expression and courage around who you are. So how do you show up, and who are you when you show up? This is a really interesting way of stimulating sexual interest as well. So this can be about a romantic partner. You do have Chiron North Node in the seventh house of relations, and your ruler Venus is within a few days of this conjunction is moving into that fifth house. So it could be something that is really sparking a new interest, a new love interest, new commitment, or just a new flirt as well. But it will transform you, because Mars and Pluto together is really transformational. The fifth house is also about hobbies and sports and this kind of thing, things that you do for fun or for a sense of personal achievement. And with Mars on Pluto, you can get really deep into that. You can almost borderline obsessive about it. For example, when Pluto went through my fifth house, I started to get really into yoga. And that's when I started to teach that. That was years and years ago, but I just couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't get enough of the spiritual practices, of the different ways of approaching asana, the different ways of learning different schools and methods and teachers and so on. It's just one example, but with Pluto Mars there will be this sense of a drive towards something that you enjoy, that you are passionate about, that brings you a sense of satisfaction, perhaps even with an aim to earn money from it, because Mars is your second house ruler. And so it may be something that you're looking to do as a hobby or interest, but you can actually also make money from it. At the very least, with Mars as your second house ruler, it can bring you a great feeling of self-worth. And that's wonderful. And then, of course, Mars rules your seventh of relationships. And so something there is about healing in relationships. Something new is happening, a new awareness, a new self-awareness, particularly being aware, for example, if there is any tendency towards sabotaging relationships because of your either self-esteem issues or any kind of doubt around the relationship, any kind of wounding around your roles in relationship, things like that can come to your awareness and can change. Now, Chiron on the North Node is about this being different now, recognizing that something is different now. So I think it could be a very exciting time for Libra risings. Really, really nice kind of energy. Pluto is much easier to deal with in the trinal houses. It's trine to you and brings you quite a lot of positive transformation. So make the most of that. Enjoy, Libra, and I'll see you in the next video. Scorpio, this is happening in your fourth house of what brings you security, what makes you feel grounded, what makes you feel connected to whether it's your family or your lineage or the family that you have created yourself. This can be about property as well. Where do you live, the house and home, or the feeling of home? It can be about psychological and emotional security as well. So this is a very important transit with Pluto going through your fourth house for 20 years. Now, Mars coming onto Pluto is giving you a sense of courage. Maybe that you've been looking for property for ages and nothing has really manifested. And now it's like, you know what, I'm so done with that. I'm going to just get back onto the internet or back onto the pavement and start walking around and looking for that house that I want to buy, or selling your house and realizing it's really time to stop pussyfooting around and you now are willing to put the house on the market, for example. Your ruler is Mars. So it's a very important thing when Mars is coming into an important conjunction like that with Pluto, big transformation. Some modern astrologers consider Pluto to be the ruler of Scorpio. I do not, but it certainly resonates because the Scorpionic energy is deep and passionate and can go really deep. And when Pluto goes into the fourth house, you can do some really deep excavation around your psychological nature. You can go deep into aspects of yourself that you need to learn to overcome any feelings of anger, depression, especially Pluto Mars, any feelings of anger, depression. Depression, by the way, is repressed anger. So it's when you're not able to fully verbalize or express your anger that you feel that depression. Now, Mercury, about verbalizing, about communicating, is there in the fourth house, and it's sextiling Chiron North Node in your sixth house of health. And the North and South nodal axis has been in the sixth and 12th house axis, which is about health and healing, both physical and psychological, spiritual healing. And so it is an opportunity for you. And Mercury rules your eighth house of the unconscious as well, the fears and things that might come through childhood or family issues that haven't been dealt with. So this could also be a really brilliant time for you to go deep into yourself and try and understand what it is that I need to change. And that change will come through everyday life, through everyday habits, perhaps through treatment. Sixth house can be medical or psychological, clinical, some kind of treatment in the broadest sense. You know, it doesn't have to be like heavy stuff. It can be that you're ready to change your lifestyle or change your attitude towards, you know, how things are in your life. The North Node, Chiron, also can show you where you're so done with this job, like you hate the job that you're in. Mars rules that sixth house, so your ruler is also there ruling the sixth house. And if you don't like your job, you are miserable. That's typical of Scorpio. You need to have a personal connection to what you do and feel that there's some kind of motivation. Mars is all about motivation and drive and courage and having a set of goals and priorities. How do I take action? So with the Mars in the fourth house with Pluto, you want to be taking action on what brings you happiness, what makes you feel the sense of psychological equanimity, happiness. I'm not sure if Scorpio can be equanimous, but okay. I challenge you. Write it in the comment section, Scorpio, if you could be equanimous. The passion, let's call it, there you go. Find the passion, find the thing that gets you out of bed every day, the ikigai that gets you out of bed every day. And this will be a very healing opportunity. So you can overcome this feeling of, I just don't like this thing, and that feeling of being stuck. You are, again, one of those fixed signs. And so you can, much like your fixed signs friends, you can find that you linger too long before making a change. And with Pluto, Mars, right at the beginning of your fourth house, the change has to happen. Something's going to be shaken up. Change has to happen. It can also be about the structure of your home and family as well. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like, oh yeah, the kids are moving out, or we're having kids. You know, all those things are possible. So there's change. And that would depend on your experience of your chart as to how that manifests. But all that to say that it's on its way, and you can definitely benefit from some self-exploration, some digging deep into what it is that makes you happy, what it is that makes you feel secure, and make the most of these really intense transits. Very, very powerful time for all of us to change, and for you particularly personally. So others may not necessarily see how you're changing, but you're changing in a really, really big way. So good luck with all that, Scorpio, and I'll see you in the next video. Sagittarius, this is happening in your third house. So whether your sun, moon, or ascendant sign in Sagittarius, Pluto and Mars are coming together in your third house of communication, the neighborhood that you live in, the people that you hang out with day to day, the ones you have coffee with and gossip with. And it's how you communicate, how you connect with people, your extended family. Third house is loads of different things. It's a busy place. It can also be around the way that you express your thoughts. And with Mars, Pluto in the third house, you are going to become a powerful speaker. The words that you have carry weight, and you're going to learn how much weight they carry. And it's important to understand, Sagittarius, sometimes, as gregarious as you are, as wonderfully fun as you are, sometimes you can just blurt stuff out, and it, without intending to, it can be a little too brutally honest, or it can hurt somebody's feelings. And with Pluto Mars in the third house, and anyway, Pluto's there for 20 years, you will learn just how piercing your words can be, just how powerful your communication can be. So turn it up and bring it to the highest possible level so that you can be a source of healing and inspiration, as a true Sagittarius wants to be. Feel that degree of inspiration that you can help other people with your way of communicating, with your way of expressing yourself, with the way of engaging in your everyday community. This is also something to do with siblings, especially your younger siblings would be in the third house. Normally, the older siblings in the 11th. Doesn't have to be specifically that. It can be cousins as well, aunts, uncles, and so on. So lots of busyness here. And there's something that's changing around all of that. Your life goals might be changing, but in the sense of, like, what should I do now? The goals that we have, or the skills that we bring to life, the everyday skills. This is also Mars. Mars is skills, goals, and the third house is very much related to that. So Pluto Mars in the third house can have you really ready to develop new skills, to hone new skills, to use them. Mars is about action. Get on it, use them. Don't hold yourself back. So practice makes perfect. You don't have to be perfect from the beginning. And so with Chiron on the North Node in your fifth house, it's also perhaps an opportunity for you to recognize where you may have doubted your creativity, where you may have doubted your capacity to be yourself, to express yourself just as you show up. Mars is ruling that fifth house. And so being physical, being dynamic, dancing, singing, doing sports is really, really good. This is one of the reasons that Sagittarius is known for being super athletic and outgoing, super active, because Mars rules that fifth house. And so use that energy, this kind of desire for creative expression, to bring yourself out into a new way of just being yourself. It doesn't have to amount to anything. It doesn't have to be for money or career or anything. You're losing a sense of what used to be important for you with the South Node in the 11th house. Maybe groups of friends are no longer really relevant to you, or you're physically moving away, and that's no longer possible. That's contributing to this newness in your neighborhood. And it's also just kind of like, I'm done. I don't really feel like that political thing, or that social thing, or that religious thing that used to motivate me, or that goal, that life dream that I had. It's changing now. And with the North Node in the fifth house with Chiron, it's about, what do I want to express? How do I want to show my creative self? How do I want to show up in the world? So really a great opportunity for you to develop your skills, bringing that third house of skills and talents and abilities into the fifth house of creativity. And if you have any kind of artistic skills or desires in that way, or literary communication skills, this is going to be a brilliant moment for you, where you can really expand on all of that. So best wishes for all of that, Sag, and I'll see you in the next video. Capricorn, you're having this in your house of your self-worth and money. So this is for the sun, moon, and ascendant sign in Capricorn. You have Pluto and Mars, which is very strong for Capricorn. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, so always does really well for you, Capricorn. And that's in your house of earned income, of investments, of the family in general, your family, whatever supports you. It's your body. It's your It's your whatever investments or stuff that you own. And so with Pluto Mars there, maybe you're feeling a new drive or a new ambition in terms of earning income, investing, what it is that you want to do. Now, the North Node and Chiron are in your fourth house, so there may be a lot of focus on purchasing property, for example, or there may be a need for you to connect with your family in a different way. And that can be your lineage going back, and it can also be the family that you have created, house and home or family, the sense of what brings you happiness. And Chiron is there on the North Node, and you may have realizations around your psychological needs or your emotional needs, because the fourth house is also that thing that brings us a sense of centering and grounding. That can also be, of course, our interior sense of stability and grounding. And so it can be material, but it can also be metaphysical or psychological. And so this is very important for this Mars Pluto conjunction. Mars is ruling that fourth house. And so whatever it is that you decide, based on your values, based on income, based on how you operate in terms of what you need to feel this sense of support and security, it will bring you a certain amount of healing. You'll become aware, that maybe an awareness of ways that you have been sabotaging your own happiness. Chiron has been in your fourth house for the last 5 or 6 years. So, and the North Node itself has been there 6 months already. So this is not a new area for you. There's some healing that needs to be done around your emotional nature. That can be with reference to your childhood. It can be with reference to the quality of your home and family life. And as Pluto and Mars move through your second house, you really are in an opportunity. It's a great opportunity right now for you to get clear what's important. What are my lasting values? How do I want to take action here? Do I need to take action for my family? Or do I need to take action in terms of financial security, investments, and so on? And so it's a good time for Capricorn to become very pragmatic, as you generally speaking are, but with a sense of I'm willing to overcome some of my emotional barriers to really connecting with people. This is Chiron North Node in the fourth house. So I'm willing to overcome my hesitation around communicating and connecting with people that I love, so that I can actually make this a more a healed relationship or a healed atmosphere around me, and therefore bring myself more happiness as well. So that's it, Capricorn. I think you've got quite a lot of support there. Pluto in the second house can bring a lot of financial success. Mars can be that impetus that brings you into a motivation around that. It can be a seed moment, but think in terms also of what are my values? What is my personal value? Don't just go by money and the stuff of life, but think deep, as Chiron in the fourth house would like you to, along with the North Node. So make all the best of that, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye then.